Jamie had seen a lot of things with his drone, but nothing as scary as this. While flying it over the rugged Appalachian Mountains, he spotted something that left him in shock. He stared at the monitor in disbelief. His drone hovered above a small mountain, showing something he'd never seen before. Jamie zoomed in but couldn't make out what it was. There was only one option left. He had to check it out in person. He let the drone stay in place and began hiking toward it. He could still hear the faint hum of the drone in the distance, even though he couldn't see it anymore. It was clear that no one had been here for a long time, even though the Appalachians were a popular hiking area. He had started his hike late in the morning, thinking it would only take about 2 hours to reach the top. But as he climbed, he realized he had underestimated the height of the mountain. Worse, he didn't bring any water or food. The hike was wearing him down, and he was starting to think about turning back. But just as he thought about retrieving his drone, he realized he hadn't been paying enough attention to it. His stomach dropped as he saw the drone's battery was at 1%. Jamie quickly pressed the return button, but it was already too late. The screen turned black, and he heard his drone crash into the rocks in the distance. The sound of the crash echoed off the mountains, reflecting the eerie reality of how alone he was. Knowing he couldn't leave without his drone, Jamie had no choice but to keep going. He gave himself a quick pep talk and continued his hike. He pushed himself as hard as he could, but when he finally reached the top, his heart sank again. All he saw was a wide stretch of snow, no drone, and no sign of the strange things he had seen earlier. As he looked around, he spotted his drone stuck between two rocks a little way down a cliff. Even though he knew it was dangerous, Jamie decided to climb down. Who would risk their life for a drone? His heart pounded as he walked to the edge of the mountain. One slip could be fatal. Carefully, Jamie took his first step down the steep cliff, which was full of hidden dangers. Suddenly, his foot slipped on a loose rock, and his heart raced. He quickly steadied himself, but the close call made him even more cautious. While hanging from the rocks, doubts crept into Jamie's mind. He questioned whether retrieving his drone was worth the risk. The drone was only a few meters away, almost within reach. He carefully moved across the last few meters of the rocky cliff. When Jamie finally reached his drone, a wave of victory washed over him. He picked it up with trembling hands, not just from the cold, but from the adrenaline. Holding the drone, he felt a mix of triumph and the sobering thought of his climb back. The journey down had been tough, but climbing back up, especially with the drone, promised to be even more challenging. As Jamie neared the top, his spirits began to rise. The thought of reaching solid ground in safety gave him a new burst of energy. When he finally reached the summit, he took a moment to catch his breath and looked around, taking in the stunning view that stretched before him. After a few moments of rest, Jamie noticed something unusual in the distance. Mysterious objects scattered across the landscape sparked his curiosity. The exhaustion and fear from his climb faded, replaced by a sense of adventure. This unexpected sight drew him in, urging him to explore what these strange objects could be. As Jamie got closer to the objects, his excitement grew. Details that had been obscured by distance began to emerge. Tree. The objects were clearly covered for a reason, suggesting they were not meant to be found. As he reached out to uncover the first shape, he stood on the brink of discovery. What secrets would these mysterious objects reveal? Jamie pulled back the covering on the first object, revealing something completely unexpected. It wasn't natural at all, but man-made, standing out against the wild backdrop of the mountains. Just as Jamie was piecing together the puzzle, the quiet of the mountain was shattered by the sound of engines growing closer. The unexpected noise signaled that he wasn't alone, introducing a new threat to the already mysterious situation. Realizing the seriousness of it, Jamie quickly looked for a place to hide. The approaching sounds meant people were coming, and he wasn't sure if they were friend or foe. Two men soon appeared, moving with a purpose that suggested they were no ordinary hikers. Their quick, deliberate actions and the way they scanned the area made it clear they were here for the crates. Jamie watched from his hiding spot, his heart pounding. The men's presence and their focused search hinted at something illegal or dangerous connected to the mysterious crates. From his concealed position, Jamie observed the men handling the crates with a familiarity that suggested they knew exactly what they were looking for. After what felt like an eternity, the men finished their business and left as quickly as they had arrived. Their departure marked the end of the immediate threat, but left Jamie with a deeper sense of unease about what he had stumbled upon. After a moment of hesitation, Jamie's curiosity won over his fear. He couldn't leave with so many questions unanswered. Knowing the risks, he decided to go back to the crates for a closer look. As Jamie approached the crates again, he felt the weight of his decision. The danger of the men returning was real, and he knew he had to be quick. He was determined to find out what was so important about these crates. Moving closer to the crates for the second time, Jamie felt the thrill of the unknown. The mystery of what they contained and what it meant drove him. As Jamie lifted the tarp, what he found inside took his breath away. It wasn't what he expected at all. Instead of inanimate objects or contraband, he found endangered animals like the red wolf, trapped and scared. This discovery changed everything. It was no longer just about curiosity, it was about a crime against nature. Jamie knew he had to act, and fast. He pulled out his phone and called the authorities, explaining what he had found. His voice was steady, but inside he was a mix of anger and concern for the animals. After making the call, Jamie stayed by the crates, watching over the animals. He wanted to make sure they were safe until help arrived. This responsibility added a new layer to his character, transforming him from an ordinary hiker into a protector of the natural world. In the quiet moments before help arrived, Jamie reflected on his journey. What started as a quest to capture the beauty of nature with his drone had turned into a crucial conservation effort. Just as Jamie was caught up in his thoughts, the sound of engines disrupted the silence again. The men were coming back, and the danger was now real and close. Jamie's heart raced as he realized the confrontation he had hoped to avoid was about to happen. The return of the men meant he had to act fast to protect the animals and himself from being discovered. Jamie quickly looked for a place to hide, knowing he had to stay out of sight to protect the animals. From his hidden spot, Jamie watched the men approach, hoping the authorities would arrive in time. He checked his phone, but there was no signal to update him on their arrival. The tension was unbearable, knowing that getting caught could ruin everything he had worked for. Suddenly, one of the men spotted movement near the crates, and the chase was on. Jamie used his knowledge of the terrain to his advantage, dodging between trees and rocks, leading the men away from the animals. His heart pounded as he ran, fueled by adrenaline and the desperate hope of escape. It was a high-stakes game of cat and mouse, with Jamie's freedom on the line. Just when Jamie thought he couldn't run anymore, the sound of a helicopter filled the air. The authorities had arrived just in time. The helicopter landed between Jamie and the men, rescuing him. The men were quickly caught, and Jamie was finally safe. Relief washed over him as he realized the animals were safe and the criminals were stopped, all thanks to his quick actions. Word of his bravery spread fast, and people called him a hero. Jamie felt proud yet humbled by the praise. His story soon gained attention, and conservationists thanked him for making a difference. The experience gave Jamie a new sense of purpose, showing him that bravery is about standing up for what's right. The whole ordeal changed him, and while the adventure was over, it marked the start of a new chapter in his life as a protector of nature.